Welcome everyone to the public budget hearing and meet the candidates night tonight. I would like to um, welcome everybody and thank you for being here. The first part of the evening is going to be our public budget hearing, and then after that is concluded, we'll have meet the candidates night. And I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for being here this evening to moderate that. You've done that for us for many years, and we really appreciate your time and efforts that you give to our district. It's really an important event. So thank you very much. We'll begin the evening with the Pledge of Allegiance. So all who can stand, please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Yep, pick your flag. We have multiples. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The next part of the agenda is remarks on the budget process, which I will read those out. So I'm pleased this evening to discuss the expenditure plan proposed for the 2023-24 school year with you this evening. The Board of Education, administrative team, and district faculty and staff have worked collaboratively to develop this proposal. I would like to begin by thanking everyone who contributed to this process. Our goal in the budget development process was to maintain our programs while keeping the tax burden on the community as low as possible. Accordingly, we've worked hard to continue our long-standing tradition of excellence at an affordable cost. The proposed budget for the 2023-2024 school year increases spending by 1.81%. This is less than 1/4 of the 2022 consumer price increase of 8%. The resulting tax levy increase of 2.29% is $945 below our tax cap. Throughout the budget development process, the strategic plan was instrumental in helping to prioritize items that will advance the district's goals of long-term sustainability and a safe, innovative, and engaging learning environment. Specifically for long-term sustainability, 3 faculty and staff positions were reduced through attrition. For personalized, innovative, and engaging learning, we will maintain high-quality educational experience for which Lake George Central School District is known. We'll continue investments in the district's one-to-one technology program, and musical instruments, athletic, and classroom equipment replacements will happen as needed. For safeguarding the community investment, we will continue painting and carpeting, flooring, and classroom furniture replacements as needed. Following our vehicle replacement plan schedule, residents will be asked to approve the purchase of 2 60-passenger school buses as a separate proposition. This purchase will be financed by issuing a bond anticipation note, and the first of 5 debt service payments will be made in the 2024-25 school year. This is the 12th year of purchasing buses through a budget proposition and financing them over a 5-year period. So a prior purchase will come off the debt payment schedule when a new one's added, and that levels the impact on taxes. The capital outlay project, the proposed budget includes a transfer to the capital fund in the amount of $100,000. This will allow for the replacement of unit ventilators in the high school in order to improve ventilation. We will receive 10% state building aid in the following year to help offset the cost of these units. The Board of Education would like to thank everyone who was involved in developing the budget. We hope the district will continue to see the overwhelming community support that has contributed to many years of success for the students of Lake George. For information on the budget, you can find it on our website, www.lkgeorge.org. The next item on our agenda this evening is the remarks on revenues, and Mary Ann McKenzie, the Board Vice President, will go over those.
Thank you, Katie. The Board of Education is pleased to propose a budget that stays at the tax cap while providing personalized opportunities for all students that empower them to be lifelong learners, leaders, and global citizens. When developing the budget, the district was mindful of creating a sustainable budget for the future. Conservative spending, careful planning, and prudent fiscal management enable the district to minimize the tax burden while maximizing educational opportunities for our students. Maintaining a stable tax rate and minimizing the tax burden on our residents is always a priority when developing our budget. Lake George has one of the lowest tax rates in our county and is very low compared to schools across the state. Our property owners contribute 87% of our operating support. For 2023 through 24, the district is proposing a tax levy increase of 2.29%, which is $945 below our tax cap. This will yield an additional $481,000 in property taxes. Based on current information, for a $200,000 home in the Lake George School District, taxes would increase by about $26, and for a $300,000 home, the increase would be about $39. State aid accounts for only 10% of our revenues. Although we are projected to receive the minimum increase in foundation aid of 3%, the estimated total state aid for next year is expected to increase only $41,648. This is primarily due to a reduction in expenditures that generates expense-based aid. To help offset the burden on taxpayers to balance the budget, the district is strategically appropriating fund balance and reserves. For 2023 through 24, the district plans to use $472,769 from the appropriated fund balance and $150,000 from appropriated reserves. Together, they represent about 2.5% of the district's total revenue projection. Finally, as your school board, it is our mission to carefully manage resources in order to continue to fulfill the community's vision for the district and its children for generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Ann. The next item on our agenda is the budget presentation, and Lynn Durway, our business official, will be doing that. Thank you.
Okay, as most people have heard me say before, our mission statement guides our budget process as it does most things in our district. As we start the budget development process, one of the items we look at very closely is our tax cap. Since 2012, districts have been required to go through a complex formula that indicates how much they can raise taxes without requiring a supermajority. Although inflation was 8% last year, our tax levy increase allowed under those regulations is 2.3%. This chart shows you what the actual inflation rate was. The school bus yellow line indicates that, and the blue line indicates what the state allowed you to increase under the tax cap within that formula. The district has adopted a number of cost-saving measures. Whenever possible, we participate in cooperative bidding arrangements and also BOCES purchases. We also belong to our BOCES Consortium Health Insurance Trust, as well as our Workers' Comp Trust. We are part of a consortium of other schools, almost 200 schools in the state, to get the best prices on electricity as well as natural gas. We've implemented automated temperature control systems, and we've reconfigured bus routes. Every time a position is vacated, we take a look at whether it can be eliminated through attrition. So some of the highlights for the coming year proposed budget are that it maintains all programs and services. There'll be technology upgrades at various grade levels, along with infrastructure improvements. Transportation and maintenance upgrades, including 2 new school vans. And again, savings through attrition, as I mentioned. So some of the important facts and figures: the total proposed budget, $24,808,692, which is an increase over this year of $441,040, or 1.81%. The total tax levy, $21,453,000, which is an increase over this year's of $481,000. And a percent increase of 2.29, which is just below our 2.3% tax cap, or $945 less. The state requires us to divide the budget into 3 major components: administration, program, and capital. And of course, program is always the largest portion of the budget. So here you have a year-by-year comparison that shows you the dollar changes as well as the percent changes. This presentation is online, and you'll see there's a link at the upper right-hand corner of this page. If you click on that link, it will bring you to detailed copies of the budget expenditures. So looking at it in pie chart fashion, you really see how much larger the program component is than the other 2 components. So now if we look at revenues, again, we have that same link at the top right-hand corner if you want to look at the details. But we have 6 major sources of revenue: our property taxes, pilots, other revenues, state aid, and an appropriated fund balance. So the largest change percent-wise that you see is under pilots. That's because this year we have 1 pilot, next year we're going to have 3 pilots. Pilots are payment in lieu of taxes. They're tax preferred treatment that's granted to them from the IDA. So this shows a percent change in our revenues overall of 1.81%. So looking at our state aid, I've divided it into 2 components: our foundation aid, and every school district is receiving a minimum of a 3% increase in foundation aid, and then expense-based aid, which are based on your expenditures. And you see that that's a decrease for us because our expenditures in that category have gone down. As it turns out, the state adopted the budget today, and the state adopted budget is very, very close to what the governor proposed back in January. I think the difference for us is only about $3,000. So our proposed tax levy, the way it's going to work out per household, I've shown the estimated tax increase for a house with an estimated assessed taxable value of $200,000 and $300,000 in each town. And these are based on the 2022 assessed values and equalization rates. So looking at the revenues in a pie chart, you see that our real property tax accounts for 86.5% of all our revenues. This shows you the 6-year budget history. And I think it's important to note that over these 6 years, the average increase per year has been only 1.25%. As of last year, our unrestricted fund balance was $956,930. That is 3.93% of this year's budget. 4% is the maximum you can carry over from year to year. The next 2 slides show a listing of our reserves, and they're known as restricted fund balance. They can only be used for very specific purposes. For example, this capital reserve, 4 million, is being designated toward the new transportation facility. As mentioned earlier, there's also going to be a proposition on May 16th for 2 new 60-passenger buses. Total cost $302,092. And that's in accordance with our 10-year replacement plan. These next 3 slides show you the impact of the school district finances. And as you see in the first column, we have 186 full-time employees, earning a total of 11.3 million, paying income taxes of 0.6 million, and sales tax of 0.3 million. All that spending by the district and those employees has a spillover effect, which is shown in the second column. And then the third column shows the two together, the direct impact and the spillover. This shows the same data on a regional basis, so this is for the capital area. So you can see it really does add up. All the schools in the capital area contribute over 64 million to the economy. And this is the statewide impact, $1.2 billion. So I don't want to talk negatively, but if we have a budget defeat, we have 3 choices. We can put the same budget up a second time. We can put a revised budget up, which is typically lower, and have the voters vote on that, or we could go straight to a contingency budget. If it's defeated a second time, the board must adopt a contingency budget, and the amount would be $24,477,859. It would eliminate all equipment and other non-contingent items, and we would maintain a 0 increase in taxes. So these are the details on our budget vote and Board of Election candidates. Tuesday, May 16th, 2 weeks from today, 11 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. at the elementary school gymnasium. And as mentioned earlier, there is more detailed information available on the school's website. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. The last item on our agenda this evening before adjournment is a public comment period. Is there anyone who, before you come up, I just have one quick little, well, you can come up. I have one quick little thing to read. Oh, over here is where it is. The Lake George Central School District Board of Education welcomes district residents, parents, and other interested persons to its meetings. Community involvement at board meetings is encouraged so that the board can better understand and represent the views of its constituents. Please be aware that by law, individual student information or particular personnel issues cannot be discussed at public sessions of the board. Please tell us your name when you come up to the microphone. Statements are limited to 3 minutes. The board and district staff take public comments very seriously, and careful notes of questions and concerns will be taken so that they can be addressed as quickly as possible. Thank you in advance for helping maintain a safe and respectful decorum for our meeting. So welcome.
Thank you, Lisa Doster. I understand that during a time of inflation, all costs generally go up. But isn't it also a time to look to cut costs? In the proposed budget, it does not give detail or breakdown of individual budgeted items for the public to see, as the link provided only basic information. Please let the public know if there is a way for you to provide a detailed comparative budget for the same 5-year period. Taxpayers should be allowed to see the district's true out-of-pocket costs regarding items like Erie One BOCES and budgeted amounts to the board. Since over 86% of funding comes from the taxpayer and there is a proposed tax increase, I think we owe the details to the public. Our student numbers are in decline, which will profoundly lower our funding to the district from New York State. And to top it off, New York State is set to now lower our standards for math and reading. Please let us know what incentives the taxpayer receives in this tax increase. In 2018, we had 749 students at a cost per student of $31,171. This proposed budget has 630 students, which is a decline of student enrollment of 19% from 2018. Yet in this proposed budget, our cost per student increase is 26% to $39,378. Again, since 2018, our student enrollment has dropped 19%, yet our cost per student has risen per this proposed budget, 26%. Why have we been spending tons of time and money on diversity, equity, inclusion policies when 93% of our students are white, and on radical gender policies, yet we have 0 non-binary students? Why are we not focused on the true issues at hand? With the 26% rise in the cost per student, what is the return when the standards for the student learning are being lowered by New York State? At this point, we have to ask ourselves, are we focused on the right thing, or are we the cause of the problem? Our funding from other sources is also very important, and the public understands that the funding is at risk if we don't follow the Board of Regents requirements to this district to change its Warrior name and logo. How can parents participate in this process? This requirement is posed directly to the school district, its officers, and its employees only. And it's not directly posed to the individual like a student, outside business, or taxpayer. It is stated the district cannot prohibit individuals utilizing or promoting any logo, name, or mascot when located on school property or any school function. Is the student committee working on the new mascot aware of this? Maybe there's a way to remove the ownership of any mascot imagery and name from the school altogether. The district can be called Lake George and have the student committee work with a current outside corporation like the Lake George Warrior Booster Club to handle this. This way, it will no longer be under the control of the district or an issue to the district, and you would not be under the threat of losing funding. I would like to wish good luck to all of our BOE candidates running for office. A friendly reminder, campaigning on school property by incumbents like last year and the year prior is not permitted, as it provides an unfair advantage over others. Last year, we had a
Lisa,
record turnout of voters.
3 minutes have.
Okay, I'm just finishing. Please note, in order to vote, the voter must reside at their property or residence 30 days prior to voting, or it could deem the vote invalid. Last year, several voters of vacant land and summer camp properties were not residing in the district during the allotted time frame that is required. It is required for our voter list to be verified, accurate, and legal before any certification of voting can be completed. Good luck to our candidates, and please come out to vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Do we have any other folks for public comment this evening? Welcome.
My name is Bob Flanagan, Nottingham Drive in Queensbury, but a citizen of the Lake George School District. I would like to ask Ms. Beaver, in particular, why you voted to allow transsexual boys to attend girls' locker rooms and sports teams.
During our public comment, your questions and comments are welcome, and
Okay, let me just reply. I understand she's not going to reply to my question. Let me continue then. Ms. Beaver did indeed vote to allow transsexual boys to go into girls' locker rooms. And she did that vote on Code 7552. And Ms. Earl also made that vote. Now, I'd like to refer to that document and the idiocy of that document. If you use Webster's dictionary and look up the word gender, it says male or female. Some dictionaries will even include the word neuter. That Lake George School District document voted by you guys June 14th of this year, adopted June 14th of 2016. and last revised December of last year, gender in that document is defined as, wait, actual or perceived sex. That is not the definition in Webster's dictionary. Perceived sex is not included in Webster's dictionary. So the question to the audience here is, why would the school board change the definition for their own personal benefit? The next item. Document 7552, voted on by this school board, is student identity crisis. And it allows transgender boys to go into girls' locker rooms and joins their sports teams. But it only applies to students. Hey, what about adults? What about staff members? What about the professors? Are they not allowed, are males not allowed to go into girls' locker rooms? Please consider that before the next vote of school board members. I think you understand how I'm going to vote.
Thank you, Bob. Is there anyone else this evening?
Hi, Laura Coles. This is in part my fault for not being prepared prior to coming tonight. I just wanted to clarify if maybe you could answer for me the difference between the proposed budget and the contingency budget. I think just quickly watching your presentation today, it looked to me like it might only be about $200,000. Is that about correct? My real point being that it's a pretty small number no matter what. So I think personally, I've been watching the district. My kids have graduated from the district. A lot of good things happen here, but the number that we're voting on is really very small, and that helps to suppress voter turnout because no matter how I vote, back to the point of the decline in school district numbers and the increasing amount that it costs to fund the kids here, it almost doesn't matter when you're telling me I can either vote yes, or if I vote no, you're still going to end up with this contingency budget. We're really only voting about a $200,000 difference no matter how we vote. And that gets very challenging for someone who actually tries to participate in the process, but looks at the decline in the numbers in the district and the ever increasing costs. And I know my businesses, which pay a significant amount in tax dollars to the district, I have to control my budgets. And I do question what goes on with the school budgets and the ever increasing cost. Even though it's only 2%, the numbers do keep going up. That's my only comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Yes.
Hi, Mike Gates. I live in Diamond Point. I have two kids within the district. Has the school taken any steps to initiate an incentive program for our most senior teachers to retire? I know there's state legislation now, but nothing would preclude you from passing a voting on and passing to use some of that reserve money for an incentives to have those senior teachers lead. Some of them right now, I did a quick review of the top 10 from See-Through New York last year, and the top 10 paid teachers and staff equate to about, well, just shy of $2 million for 10 people. And that's just their salary. That's not even their benefit package. So it might be wise to look into using an incentive program to encourage some of these people to retire, and then you could replace them with 2 or 3 other teachers for that same amount of salary. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other comments this evening? Okay. If there's no other comments this evening, we will adjourn the public hearing, and the Board of Education of Lake George Central School District hereby adjourns do I have a motion? A motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, and the meeting is officially adjourned. The next portion this evening is the League of Women Voters will be moderating our Meet the Candidates night. We will have a pause for the League of Women Voters to speak to our candidates, who I would like to introduce right now. And we have three board candidates. There are 2 seats that are open, 3 board candidates, and I will introduce them in the order in which they appear on the ballot. They appear on the ballot, the names are drawn randomly. The first person on the ballot is Janine Bieber. The second person on the ballot is Linda Clark. Are you here, Linda? Linda Clark, in the red outfit in the back there. Welcome, Linda. And the third candidate is Rosemarie Earl. So we will see them up here this evening for Meet the Candidates Night. And thank you for being here this evening.
Good evening. Can you hear me? Okay. Welcome to the Meet the Candidates event for the Lake George Central School System. All candidates on the ballot were invited, and they are all here. This event was organized by the Lake George Central School District and is being moderated by the League of Women Voters of Saratoga County. It will be recorded and posted on the school district website. League rules require that if a Meet the Candidates event is recorded, it must be broadcast or rebroadcast in its entirety. In other words, people can't take a portion of it to, for their own means and to hurt another candidate. With that in mind, we ask audience members to refrain from filming any portion of this evening's event. If we see someone videotaping, we will stop the event until the phone or camera is put away. My name is Ann Krill. I'm a member of the League of Women Voters of Saratoga County. Our league is a nonpartisan volunteer political organization dedicated to the informed and responsible participation of citizens in government. We like to have people vote. The league never supports or opposes any political party or candidate. That has been league policy since 1920. Membership is open to anyone who is eligible to register and vote, so please consider joining your local league. I would like to thank Lake George Central School District for arranging this event and you, the audience, for attending and watching, including the people at home who are watching. I realize that many of you have very strong opinions about the issues that will be discussed tonight. However, I will insist that the candidates and the audience treat each other with respect. Please refrain from cheering, applauding, making comments, or otherwise interrupting the proceedings. We want to give the candidates a chance to answer as many questions as possible. With this in mind, I also ask the audience to hold its applause until the end of the evening after the closing statements. We have received questions from the public in advance. They were reviewed by league members, and questions were selected to be representative and to avoid redundancy. So you, the community, are the ones who are asking the questions tonight, not me. Questions of a personal nature are never included. Candidates, this is your opportunity to let voters know your stance on the topics and how you will address the issues facing Lake George Central Schools. Please do not waste valuable time tearing down or labeling your opponent. Deal with the facts, and in your closing, please do not put your opponent on the spot with no chance to reply. We have 2 timers for this evening's event. They're sitting in the front row. Signs will be held up for the candidates to glance at. Green means 1 minute is left. Yellow means 30 seconds are left. And red means time is up. Stop. A bell will also ring. Can you show us what it would sound like? Can you hear it? Can you hear it? Okay. So the 3 candidates have already been introduced, but I'll say their names again, and they are in ballot order. Janine Bieber. Sorry, what are you looking for?
Oh, the red cards you
Oh.
had mentioned.
Linda, can you bring the red cards forward? They're in the box. They're right there in the box. Okay.
Thank you.
So Janine Bieber, Linda Clark, and Rosemary Earl. They will respond in that order for the opening statements. So now it is time to hear their 2-minute opening statements. And the first to speak is Janine Bieber.
Thank you.
Greetings, everyone. Thanks for being here. I'm Janine Bieber, and I'm running for a second term on the Lake George School Board. I've worked in both the private sector and in public education, and I feel that it is both my responsibility and privilege to run again to represent our exceptional district. Believe it or not, 3 years goes by fast on a school board. I started my first term hoping to make a positive impact on our district and ensure that all stakeholders feel valued and listened to. I was committed to supporting transparent decision-making and communication in order to set an example for our students of what fair, responsible, open discourse and governance looks like, and that, yes, it can exist. I believe it's rare for a person to experience what they hoped for during their first term on a board, but that's what's happened to me. I'm not saying my experience as a board member has been easy. Our district has faced a variety of significant challenges, and the future will certainly bring more. However, I've been fortunate to work with a board, administration, and community that has risen to every challenge. I've learned to lean in and listen to people when they are upset or angry, as those emotions come from care and concern over our students. I've learned that it's our differences in opinions that in a safe and respectful environment can allow us to work together to come up with the most creative and sound ideas to propel our students forward toward their brightest futures. Respectful collaboration with all stakeholders has been the cornerstone of the Lake George School Board that I have served on. Every question posed to our board by students, community members, and staff have been personally responded to with earnest intent and information that directs people to the policies and processes our district has in place in order to ensure a consistent experience for everyone. I welcome the opportunity to continue applying what I've learned as a board member in order to support our district's mission, vision, and values. Thank you.
Thank you, Janine.
Yes.
Next opening statement, Linda Clark.
I need to turn this on, is that it? Yeah, oh, I gotta turn mine off.
Hello, my name is Linda Clark. Thank you for taking the time to attend this debate. I am a retired English teacher. I love teaching students how to critically think and write to empower them for their futures. The Lake George School was a second home for both my children, and they received a wonderful education. As a single parent, I was grateful for this small town school, which was a safe place for my children to thrive. Unfortunately, this trust in our public education is rapidly eroding. Parents across the country have been rightfully speaking out at school board meetings about radical curriculum and indoctrination. The telltale signs of this direction are showing up in Lake George. This past December, BOE members, including my two opponents, approved the gender identity policy, which gives the district the power to decide when or if it is appropriate to notify parents if a child expresses gender confusion. This written policy takes away essential parental rights. The 2021 DEI meetings in Lake George were packed with parents sharing their concerns, but these fell on deaf ears. Instead, the board surged ahead with policies that parents feared, including those violating Title IX and giving biological males access to female bathrooms and locker rooms. Many parents disengaged, stopped attending meetings, and are now considering other educational alternatives which will impact the state's funding. This BOE has only just begun its agenda. The proof is in the books on the library shelves, in the indirect or direct suggestive left ideology, and the new policy recommendations developed with Erie One BOCES, a policy advisement company serving Buffalo, Rochester, and New York City schools. I look forward to this debate. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Now it's time for opening statement, Rosemary Earl.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you for listening to our message at this Meet the Candidates night, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting and moderating this evening. I consider myself fortunate to have worked in an excellent school system for most of my career. After speaking with colleagues at other school districts, I realized the value of my experience at Lake George. As a director of guidance, I consulted, collaborated, and counseled with all areas of our school system, the administrators, the faculty, staff, students, and parents. I have a deep understanding of how the school operates and how the positive culture and climate affect the daily functioning of the school. I was elected to the board 3 years ago during the beginning of the pandemic. Right from the beginning of my tenure, the board had many challenging issues to deal with, especially with COVID. In addition to the fear of the threat of people dying from this disease, we had to find a way to educate our young people without spreading the epidemic to their families. I feel that our administrators, faculty, staff, and most especially our nurses did an outstanding job trying to negotiate the changing rules on a daily basis. I have spent the past 3 years learning the job of a member of our Board of Education. I've attended conferences and training to help me a better member of our government's team. It is important to me that we work for positive outcomes for our students. Our current board is firmly committed to our district's mission, vision, and values. The board's responsibility is to set district policy. It has done so while remaining collaborative and transparent, welcoming voices and views of all parents, students, teachers, staff, and community members. While collaboration and inclusion are time-consuming and sometimes complicated, it produces the best results for our students.
Thank you, Rosemary. Now it is time for questions. Candidates will have 1.5 minutes to respond to a question. You are not required to respond. You may pass if you wish. Each candidate will be afforded 2 opportunities to request an additional minute during the question session for a rebuttal, in other words, to respond to what someone else has said, or to expand your own answer. This system we call the red card system. So each candidate has 2 red cards that they can use in that way. So please hold up your red card and wait to be acknowledged by me before you begin your extra minute. You may not interrupt another candidate in order to do this. You have to wait until everyone has, whoever is speaking has, so you just hold up your red card and I will see it and call on you when it's appropriate. Okay?
Just a question, I'm sorry. Had we decided we were going with 1.5 minutes because that was in the letter?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Did I say, oh,
Yeah, no, that's okay. I just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
I'm sorry. Their letter said 1.5 minutes, so we're going with what their original letter said. So the red card will include 1.5 minutes, an extra 1.5 minutes. So questions will be directed to the candidates in rotation so that everyone gets a chance to respond first. The first question is going to go to Janine Bieber. And it is, the question is, what do you see as your most pressing challenges for the 23-24 school year as a member of the board?
Well, I would say the most pressing issue, and this was brought up during the budget presentation, is obviously our declining enrollment. It's a challenge that we have to be incredibly creative to be able to deal with. And in some ways, some of the issues are out of the school's control in terms of what we can do in terms of housing, et cetera. But what the school board has done and what the administrators, staff, et cetera, have done is that we have taken steps to do things, for example, like we were talking about attrition and positions that aren't being filled. So that helps lessen the burden in terms of staff members. However, at the same time, even though we have declining enrollment as an issue, we've still been able to increase programming, academic programming, competitive clubs and organizations, opportunities for our students. And I think that's what we'll really be looking toward, is trying to see how we can maintain the quality of education within our school district while still coming up with creative ways to deal with our declining enrollment. Thank you.
Thank you, Janine. Linda?
Thank you. I believe that we need to get back to basic education, reading, writing, arithmetic. science, PE, instead of all of the social agenda stuff that's gobbling up time in our classrooms. I believe the gender identity policy overreaches by taking away parental rights to know what's happening with their children in school. This policy needs to be thrown out, and we need to start all over again with this. We tried to tell the board back in December that this policy was going to be a problem, and we need the board to start listening to parents when they come to them and say, you are going too far with the DEI direction. We warned you guys last year that that was going to happen, and it's happened again. And this is the result of where we're going with all of this. Also, we need to empower parents in order to know what's in the library. The books in the library some of them are disgusting, and I have lists. I have 214 books in our library that have already been removed from libraries across this country because of the inappropriate content. That is unacceptable. And so something needs to be done to make sure parents understand what's in there and can control it. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Rosemary.
So the pressing challenges that are ahead of us, we've faced a lot in the past 3 years with the COVID issues. There are a lot of challenges. I don't think that's going away. We're still going to face some COVID issues. Our mascot changes are really something that's going to be a challenge ahead of us, and definitely declining enrollment. We've done a lot, actually, with our budget, with the declining enrollment. Since 2008, we've reduced our full-time positions by 38. That's quite a bit. And so we have offered incentives to people to retire. And so our administration is doing a nice job in budgeting for the future, because our future is with less students. So I think that those topics, as far as the pressing challenges, declining enrollment, I think the mascot change is going to be really very difficult for our community and difficult for, I just think it's going to be tough. Change is hard for everyone, and that's going to be a challenge for us on the board. So is that it? Okay.
Perfect timing. Okay, thank you, Rosemary. Next question goes first to Linda Clark. What are your budget priorities for next year, and how will they be funded?
Well, I will tell you, budgetary specifics in regard to the school district are not my wheelhouse, but I have every intent to dig in and get involved. I want you to know that I am a single parent. I raised 2 children, put them both through school, built a house, and maintained a comfortable household for us on a single income. That has been true my entire life. So I am very conservative in the way in which I spend money, and that's the way I want to handle school district money as well. I believe in staying under the tax cap, and I believe in increasing student population here at school so that we get more money from the state. And I can tell you that we're losing student population because of these radical policies that are being put in place. I have talked to many families who have an intent or already have moved their children out of the district. And we are losing money every single time a child has left this district for homeschooling or private schooling. So we need to readdress some of these more radical policies so parents feel comfortable to bring back their children to Lake George. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. The next question goes to Rosemary.
Could you repeat
answer.
the question? I'm
Sure.
sorry.
What are your budgetary
Oh, okay.
priorities,
That's what I
and
thought.
how will they be funded?
Okay, so, it's really tough during these times because the inflation is so high. Everything costs more. Our health insurance for our employees has gone up dramatically. Our transportation costs have gone up dramatically. There's our employee benefits are, even though we've reduced our faculty, we still have higher costs in other things. So what are the budgetary? I just think that we should still work on what I think our administrators are calling futuring, looking into the future as far as looking at what faculty are retiring, using attrition to reduce our budget as much as we can. But it's really difficult. And I think in your homes, you find it difficult because everything has gone up so much, so drastically in the past few years. So anyway, that's what I think is for the budget, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Rosemary. And Janine?
Well, we were just presented with our budget presentation for next year. And as a member of the board, I'm supportive of the hard work that's gone in to developing that budget. And I do support that budget in terms of how monies are being allocated to support our district. To think in any way that the school board, the administration, et cetera, would not be trying to do the very best that we can for our community members and still support a quality education for our students. You would be wrong to think if we really weren't committed to that. These are, again, challenging times, and it's a difficult time to make probably any budget look good with any increase. But these are our realities, and we have a very committed and talented staff that deal with these issues. So.
Thank you, Janine. Okay, the next question is going to go first to Rosemary Earl. And the question is, if elected, how do you intend to represent all constituents in the district, including those who may not share the same viewpoint as you?
Oh, that's it. Okay. Geez, I spent my entire career dealing with people who don't have the same viewpoint as I do. You know, it's hard to have people see your viewpoint, your perspective on things if they're not listening. And that's really important for us as board members, is to listen to everyone's perspective. So it's not an easy thing. It makes it challenging to deal with people who aren't listening to you and don't really wish to open up their mind to other viewpoints. But I would ask them to listen and be patient with them. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosemary. Okay, Janine?
Would you repeat the question again,
Sure.
please?
Thank you.
If elected, how do you intend to represent all constituents in the district, including those who may not share the same viewpoint as you?
Thank you. Well, I would continue to work as a member of this board as we have worked in these past couple of years. We've worked hard, all of us, to learn to listen to all of our constituents. As I mentioned in my opening statement, it takes practice. It takes a willingness to understand, again, that it's okay for people to be angry. It's okay for people to express their opinions with compassion or passion, as long as there aren't attacks being made on individuals. Our board has been committed to listening to all constituents and have gone out of their way, especially in policy committee when policies of concern were being developed. The community was invited in. They were surveyed. People were personally asked to be worked with from the community. And so I think this board has especially been able to support all constituents because we are open to listening and working with people. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Janine. Linda?
Can you ask the question one more time?
Sure,
please? I'm sorry.
it's fine. If elected, how do you intend to represent all constituents in the district, including those who may not share the same viewpoint?
Well, as an English teacher for 30 years and teaching literature, that's what I did is I listened to viewpoints and we debated viewpoints in class. I was also a union president for 6 years. I helped negotiate contracts. I had been involved in all aspects of negotiations, whether it be a negotiation with a teacher who was in trouble or an issue with an administrator. And, listening is absolutely critical. But also not only just listening, but taking an action so that all feel as though they have been heard and represented. You got to find the middle ground. You can't go far in one direction and completely ignore the majority of people who are feeling as though what's been done is offensive or what's been done is violating somebody else's rights. So it's a careful balancing act. That's what I believe I can bring to the table.
Thank you, Linda. Okay, the next question, we're ready for the next question, I believe, and that will go first to Janine.
Okay.
The question is, we do not have an all-day curriculum for special education for kids with special needs. Would you encourage the implementation of this?
Well, as being a sitting board member, it's interesting because my personal viewpoint becomes less important than the support that the board gives to our district to look into and make sure that our students are receiving the best resources in order for them to be successful in no matter what educational setting that they are in. That is not a simple issue or a simple question. It's something that takes a tremendous amount of work and looking into that and realizing what's best for our student population in particular. So my personal opinion, I don't think really plays a role in the situation when we're dealing with working with our students and finding out, what's best for our special education population.
Okay, thank you, Janine. Next is Linda.
Right, okay. My experience in education, I had special needs students in my classes. I think it's very important, and I'm talking, honors classes. I sometimes had special needs kids in my honors classes. Why? Because they have to feel part of the whole. But with that said, they also have to have the services and the education to prepare them for their future, which is going to look a little differently than the other kids' futures. That's a given. So you have to have a careful balancing of where you're going to place students and when you're going to place them so that they feel as though they're part of the entire student community.
Thank you, Linda. Rosemary?
Thank you. That's a little confusing to me because working here, I didn't realize we didn't have an all-day special education program. But each student has in our special education program has an individualized education plan. And in that plan, the committee on special education, along with the parents and the teachers and the student, develop a plan that is right for that student. So it could be that that student is out of the building for half a day, doing a vocational program, or it could, I don't know. I mean, it just depends on the student and what they need to make them successful when they get out of high school or out of elementary school. I'm not sure. But relying on that plan is what the district should be doing. Again, I'm a little confused by the question, but hopefully, we've done a good job. Our administrators and our faculty have done a good job guiding our students in the right direction for being prepared after they get out of high school for whatever route they take, whether they go on to college or they go into a career or they just have a job. So that's it.
Thank you, Rosemary. Okay, the next question goes first to Linda. What are your ideas on diversity, equity, and inclusion policies that foster positive educational experiences for all students?
Well, the diversity, equity, and inclusion policy with this particular policy that links to gender identity is absolutely positively unacceptable because parents need to know what's going on in this district. They need to know what's going on with their children. And, I had an entire career with diversity, equity, and inclusion. I dealt with every student from all walks of life. And, I never discriminated against them. Everyone was treated fair. And to focus and create this intensive social agenda that takes away from what we should be doing as educators in a classroom and creating this intense social dialogue on a constant basis. And then, getting teachers to share their own personal social issues and their personal sexual preferences and all of that whatnot. To me, it's absolutely inappropriate. So, I guess what I'm saying is that, I think it's overkill right now and it needs to be toned down.
Thank you, Linda. Next is Rosemary.
So the question was again, I'm sorry.
Okay, what are your ideas on diversity, equity, and inclusion
Mhm.
that foster positive educational experiences for all students?
Okay. I'd like to think myself as open and welcoming to all students and to, all gender identity students. We seem to have people who think they know what's going on inside a classroom and tell other people what is going on. And it's very confusing to other people who don't know. Just the other day, I was in the PE, I was in for the fire department orientation, and I was in the gym, and I asked our PE teacher, have you ever had a transgender student in your locker room? Have you ever had a boy come in and say that he wants to use a girl? No, I've never had that. So, I mean, some of these things that are being said that's happening in our school are not. And that is kind of disturbing to me because I've spent so much time here, so much energy, and so I have so much love for this school that I can't just sit here quietly and listen to people say things like that. The classrooms are for teaching, are for education. If you've ever been in a classroom, you know that it's very hard, and the amount of time that a teacher has to teach what they have to teach, let alone interject about gender identity issues. So I'm out of time, sorry. I could go on further.
Do you want to use your red card? No? Okay. Thank you, Rosemary. And next is Janine.
Oh, hi, thank you. So, we, the policy committee worked on and the board supported, policy, 3430. I would encourage anyone, in our district to, read this policy. It's a student-centered learning environment policy. And basically, what it is trying to do is it's just supporting the idea that we are creating an environment where everyone is valued and cared for. That is what DEI is all about. I'm confused with, I feel like I'm experiencing an alternate universe when I'm hearing other descriptions of the policies, how the policies have been developed, and that parents have been left out of the processes because many of the people in this room have been part of the processes that have taken place to develop a kind and supportive policy. I'm a high school teacher who gets to know my students very well. I teach in a small district, and when I look out at their faces, just like you as parents, all I want is for them to feel safe and to feel like they matter. That's the bottom line. It doesn't matter who they are, what they believe in. That's our goal too. Thank you.
Thank you, Janine. The next question will go first to Linda. And we're going to have 2 more questions before the final, if that suits you.
Is this one of
Before
the
the-
two? Is this one of the two?
This is one of the 2.
Okay.
And then there'll be the closing statements.
Okay.
The question is, who should select books for the school library? And under what circumstances, if any, should a book be removed from the school library?
Okay. Well, this is an area that I would very much like to comment on. So last year I read Lawn Boy out loud to the Board of Education, and they turned off my mic and they said, "Oh, you can't read that out loud. That's terrible." And I said, "Well, yeah, it's terrible, but this book is sitting on the shelf in this library, for heaven's sakes. Why would you allow students to read this book?" And then they proceeded to tell me that I didn't go through process. So I went through process and I asked that that book be removed. And they went ahead, every single one of them, and approved that book for the school library. Well, since then, I took 3 days one time, a few weeks ago, I took 3 days and I just cruised the school library catalog. I found over 300 books, and I'm going to use my card on this one. So I found well over 300 books on topics that constantly talk about sex, transgenderism, gay issues. I mean, and I mean, these are not educational books. Okay. And out of the 300 and some odd, over 214 of them have already been removed from libraries across the country. In fact, other than Lawn Boy, It's Perfectly Normal is a book that teaches elementary children how to feel sexy by manipulating their bodies. It's a book that has pictorial presentations of different sex acts with boys on boys, girls on girls. It is, and that's in our elementary library. All Boys Aren't Blue have been removed from 29 school districts in our library. Out of Darkness by Ashley Perez, 24 school districts. I mean, it goes on and on. Cemetery Boys, Two Boys Kissing. Now you ask, who should be deciding this? Let me just tell you, We have a public library for everything under the sun. That's where you can go and get whatever you want. But here in school, parents can't attend the library with their children. Parents should feel that their children are getting off the library shelves something safe. And if there needs to be a parent group of all different points of view to help select the books in the library, because it cannot be done under reason here at the district, then so be it.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Linda. Time is up. I made a mistake. I should have asked Rosemary
Yeah, I thought
first
so.
on that side. I'm sorry.
But I didn't mind not going first. Sorry, Linda.
Okay, Rosemary,
I
go.
didn't want to disturb that. So the question is, who should select books?
Who should select books for the school library, and under what circumstances, if any, should a book be removed from the school library?
We have two exceptional librarians. If you don't know them, you should familiarize yourself with them. They're very, very good. They're very knowledgeable about all their books. And as a matter of fact, when one girl, it was said that one girl came into the library to take the lawn boy out, our librarian asked her, does your mom know that you're going to take this book out? And called the mother and to make sure that that she knew of that. So, I mean, our librarians really kind of know what is in their library. My feeling personally is that all students should read. They should read everything they possibly can. Reading makes them a better writer, improves vocabulary, improves test scores. I mean, that's proven. Taking books out of the library is just not, it's not what we're about. We should be shutting down the internet. We should be, our TV programs are inappropriate. Our internet's inappropriate. It's just sad what we've come to. Yeah, I guess that if there's a book in the elementary library that's all about sex acts, that, yeah, we should probably be looking at that book. I would think that we should follow policy procedures on that.
Okay, thank you, Rosemary. Janine?
So we have policies and procedures in place to deal with books that are of concern. And this is a public school district. Parents are allowed in these libraries. They can join with their children and pick out books, especially with their younger children, et cetera. Our parents and community are welcome to engage with their children and be a part of that, especially time in the library together, choosing books, et cetera. And I encourage that. But we do, in terms of, for example, The Lawn Boy, which actually we had asked for the reading to stop in case there were people who were online, who had children present, who were younger than the recommended ages that for those books. And unfortunately, also some name calling had occurred too. So that situation had to be stopped. But other than that, we have a policy that leads to a process, and that has where a committee forms, where volunteer parents are part of that committee to read and books and decide whether they have merit in this library. And the committee that came together for The Lawn Boy read the book, supported that it had educational merit beyond any of the concerns, recommended for board members to read it, and we did just that also. Thank you.
Thank you, Janine. Okay, the last question before closing statements. And this is going to go first to Rosemary, since we forgot you last time. The question is, what are your top 3 positive things you can say about the school district?
Oh God, I could go on forever.
Hmm.
Okay. Well, first of all, the course offerings that we have at our school are incredible. We have a lot of different programming that we have. Our programs at the elementary school, the Lighthouse program, the Leader in Me, the High Potential. We offer so much to our students. That's, again, that was part of my job. I could talk forever on that. We have 2 new AP courses this year. We have students earning the seal of biliteracy. We have new seal of civic readiness for their diplomas. So all these are new things that are happening for our students. We have great extracurricular activities. Our kids have gone all over the world this past spring. I mean, just think about that, where they've gone, what they've learned, what they've been exposed to. It's very positive here. Our faculty is incredible. I mean, if you think about the time and investment that they have in your children, dragging them all over to experience new things and compete in VEX robotics and compete in FBLA. I'm out of time and I could just go on forever. So that's just my first thought. Thank you.
Did you want to use a card? Okay.
Okay. So the faculty is really great. And I think that for a small school, we offer a lot. Our kids really learn a lot. I mean, as a school counselor, I took students to Japan twice. I mean, think about that. I mean, what small schools really get to go to Japan for a whole week to go to school? So, the Saga City program is great in that it does, rotate through various small schools, but we're fortunate to be in that. So I think our administration's really positive. I think our board is incredibly collaborative and transparent and listens to people. So I just think it's a really great experience for me. I wouldn't be sitting here in front of you if I didn't believe 100% in this school. We're not perfect, but we're pretty good. And I enjoy the people that I work with, and I enjoy every minute that I spend learning more about our school. And that's basically why I'm here. And I could be retired, just staying home. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosemary. Janine, you'll be next.
Well, I would say, first of all, it's our students. If you think about from the pandemic and coming through that, our students' resilience has been incredible. They were incredible during the pandemic when Lake George committed to having our students remain here in school, and that was amazing. And the kids, they just did it. They rolled with it. Overall, I mean, there were challenges, but certainly the benefits paid off. And now it's like they haven't missed a beat. When you go to programs and you're there with the kids, the energy is there. It's back. I don't know. The kids never cease to amaze me. They surprise us all the time. And so that's one thing with our district. Second, I have to say our community involvement, and I'll use my red card to go on for that. Our community involvement in committees, in community forums, our community plays a huge part in everything that happens in this district. And one of the things I'm most proud of is the role that our community played in even bringing on our wonderful new superintendent, John Luthringer. The community was involved and invited in coming to ask questions and to interview the final candidates. And that was such an amazing collaborative experience. Our students, our teachers, all the board members, all the administrators were part of the process. And that is something to hugely be very proud of. And it paid off, that's for sure. Thirdly, because there's a third, I imagine, I would say, I would piggyback on what Rosemarie said. I think because we live here, we don't realize what we have. We are a little school that offers big school opportunities. I work in a school the same size as Lake George. I wish my students had half the opportunities that our students do here. I'm probably going to hear about that tomorrow. But anyway, I can't tell you how fortunate, and I know, again, it goes back to budget and people are concerned about the increases, et cetera. But there's that, we got to have the balance in being able to continue these programs and opportunities for our students. So that's that. Thank you.
Thank you, Janine. Linda?
Okay. Well, I'm going to answer that question by saying, well said, ladies. I agree. That's how I'm going to answer it. That is all true, what they both said. So I'm going to take the rest of my time to address some of the things that were said prior to that question. Okay. One of the things was,
Can you keep it positive, please?
Oh,
Remember, we
yeah,
were
no,
talking about being
absolutely.
positive.
I am keeping it positive, and I'm hoping I get my time back now that I have to deal with that answer. Will I get my time back now? Thank you. All right. So what was said is that there's no boys in the girls' locker room. Okay. Well, just because it hasn't happened doesn't mean that it won't happen. And now there's policy in place to protect a boy who chooses to identify as a girl and go into a girl's locker room or a girl's bathroom. That policy is now in place. That policy, another policy that's in place is to allow boys to get, and I'm going to use my red card here, to allow boys to be on girls' sports teams and compete on girls' sports teams. We talk about this, we all care for, and we all have, concern for everybody. Well, what about the kids, the girls, who have to have a boy in their locker room or their bathroom, or the possibility of them getting injured because they are competing with boys? Title IX was put in place to protect girls' sports. It should stay that way, and we should honor Title IX. The other thing I want to say is that these policies that are coming out of the school board are being guided by Erie One BOCES. Now, there was a New York Post article about the first 3 school districts in New York State that implemented these policies where parents don't have to be told what's going on. The 3 school districts: Buffalo, Rochester, and Lake George. I just got an update today, and New York City now has been added, but Lake George was on the top 3. There's something wrong when policy doesn't match the community. And I have talked with hundreds and hundreds of people, and I'm hearing them say, this is not what we want. I heard them say it during the DEI meetings. We need to match our district up with the people in the community. We love and respect everyone, but we have to show that to everyone, including the girls who have to face the boys in their locker rooms. So I'm all for diversity, equity, and inclusion, so long as it includes everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Red card, you want to say?
Go
Okay.
ahead, Rosemarie.
Okay, so I wanted to address something that was said earlier about a lot of our students leaving the district to go homeschooling. When I was in Director of Guidance, I was very aware of our homeschooling families and how many we had. And currently, we have 14 families, which equals 20 students. That's about the same that we had way back when I was as a school counselor. And that hasn't increased at all. 6 of those families started before 2020, and 9 of the 14 students started before 2020. And they're expecting that to decrease next year, at least by 5, because families are moving around. So I just want to say that. And the other thing that I want to respond to is that policy that we don't, as a faculty, does not have to tell a parent if they know a child is thinking about being thinking about their gender identity. So, I mean, I could go on, I don't have a lot of time, but that policy's been in place for years. I mean, when I started in 1991, that policy was in place. We actually, I have to stop, but if you ever want to talk to me about that or want to talk to me afterwards, I'd be more than happy to tell you how that policy plays out. And it's really kind of to protect the
Your time
kids.
is up.
So
Sorry.
thank you. I'm sorry.
I believe you had a red card as well.
Oh, I did. Rosemarie covered some of that. I'm going to have to look up that New York Post article where Lake George is listed in the top 3 in terms of letting boys.
I'm not sure
play
they can
sports.
hear you.
Oh, I've got it. I'm going to have to look up that New York Post article. That the policy that you've been referring to has, I believe, been with us. I don't know, since 2016. There was a minor update, and I encourage people to read these policies yourself and interpret them, because I don't think they're being interpreted fairly. And also, very clearly in those policies, it states that the school district and the personnel will do everything possible to make sure that any of these situations where students are having gender identity issues, the parents, it will be encouraged for the parents and students to work together with our personnel to come up with a plan that works, that's safe for everyone. And so, again, I really do encourage everyone to read those policies yourself. Thank you.
Okay, I think we're done with questions. All the red cards have been used, so we are ready for closing statements. And first will be Janine Bieber
Oh, okay.
for your closing statement, and you have 1 minute.
1 minute. In my opening statement, I referred to our district as exceptional. I'm not just throwing this term around. Even with challenges such as the pandemic, declining enrollment, and responsible and responsive budgeting, our district continues to creatively increase opportunities for our students in all areas of their school experience. Academic opportunities have expanded for both vocational and college-bound students. New and exciting sports mergers and clubs continue to emerge. Although our staff is decreasing in number due to attrition and decreasing need to fill those positions, we are utilizing current talented and valuable staff in new roles to propel our district forward. I look forward to the prospect of serving on the board for another term to support the quality education our students deserve. Thank you to the audience and to the League of Women Voters for being here tonight, and good night.
Thank you, Janine. Linda?
Gender Identity Policy 7552 was altered December 13th, 2022, and all the language I talked about tonight was put in that policy in that month. All right, with that said, our children have the right to grow and develop without suggestive rhetoric or sexually explicit books. They must learn to think, not how to think. Their life choices must be free from contamination of the agenda that ultimately breaks down the pride in our country, the normal development of innocence, and the institution of the family. Parents have the constitutional and God-given right to make choices for their children, raise them with their values, morals, and religious convictions. To do this, they must be fully informed by the schools they entrust. Keeping secrets with children to hide information from parents is obscene. I look forward to working with the board level to protect these parental rights. May we happily warrior on.
Thank you, Linda. Rosemary, last closing statement, 1 minute.
Okay, thank you. I hope this evening has answered some of your questions about each of us. I've spent my entire career advocating and collaborating for students, parents, and educators for this reason, and also for the reason for my involvement in the community. I consider myself a valuable member of this Board of Education in Lake George. I have a unique perspective on issues and offer that to this board team. We are fortunate that each board member has a different perspective and that we listen to each other. At this time, none of us has a specific agenda other than making our school the best it can possibly be and welcoming to all people. I'm asking for your vote on May 16th, and if elected, I will work hard to manage district resources, promote academic excellence, and support the students with thoughtful continuance of our district's mission, vision, and values. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosemary. Okay, it's been a long evening. I want to thank you for coming and for being patiently and respectful. And I want to thank the candidates for coming and sharing your views and also remaining civil. And so please don't forget to vote on May 16th. I believe the polls are open 11 to 7:30. Yeah, at the elementary school. Absentee ballots are available at the school district. Thank you again and have a good evening.